Okay, so let's talk about a phrase we have all heard, and let's be honest, probably said a million times. I'm fine. But what if I told you that those two little words are actually a key? A key that can unlock a person's entire inner world. Today, we're going to decode what's really going on behind that seemingly simple answer.
You know exactly who I'm talking about, right? That friend, that coworker, that family member who, no matter what is thrown at them, no matter how much pressure they're under, they just seem unshakable. While everyone else is falling apart, they just give you that same steady answer. I'm fine. Now, here's what's so fascinating. This isn't just about being private or putting on a brave face. Psychology tells us that this little habit, it actually points to a really complex mental architecture. Think of it like a fortress, built brick by brick over many years, all for one main reason: survival. So to really understand this, we've got to go back, way back, because the roots of this incredible independence, they're almost always planted in our earliest life experiences, the ones that taught us a very powerful lesson about having to rely on ourselves. A huge concept here is something psychologists call parentification. It's a fancy word, but it basically just means growing up way too fast. This happens when a kid has to take on adult-sized emotional weight, either their own or even the adults around them, long before they have the tools to handle it. And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it. When you learn really young that your feelings aren't the priority in the room, you don't just stop having them. No way. You just learn to stop showing them. You build what's called a survival independence. So saying "I'm fine" isn't a lie. It's a reflex. It's an echo from a time when there really wasn't any other choice. And that self-reliance, it's usually got a partner in crime, a deep, deep fear of being a burden. You see, if the support you got in the past was shaky or unpredictable, you learn to make your own needs as small as possible, to avoid feeling like you're weighing anyone down. This is basically the lightning-fast thought process that happens inside their head. Okay, step one, a problem comes up. But immediately, step two, the thought is, sharing this will just burden someone else. Which leads to step three, it's my job to protect them from my stuff. And so the only logical conclusion, step four, is always the same. I am fine. So, how does all that history actually play out today? Well, it builds this incredibly powerful internal compass. It's one that's guided by their own sense of self-worth, not by what other people think or say. All right, let's break this down. On the one hand, you've got people who run on external validation. They kind of need to broadcast their struggles to get support, to get a reaction. They look for those spotlight moments. But the folks we're talking about, they operate on internal validation. Their self-worth isn't a performance. They process things on the inside. And this is the bottom line. For them, a problem doesn't have to be put on display for it to feel real. They have what's called an internal locus of evaluation, which just means they trust their own judgment first and foremost. They're their own judge and jury, so they don't need a public audience to figure things out. And this brings us to what might be the most important part of this whole conversation. We have to reframe how we see this behavior, because what so many people mistake for being closed off or emotionally repressed is actually a profound kind of resilience. This habit is often a sign of some serious emotional endurance. These are people who can survive disappointment without completely shattering. Their whole system has adapted to handle pain by themselves, to solve problems on their own. They're the ones who stay calm when everything else is falling apart around them. So let's be absolutely crystal clear on this, because it's the main takeaway. This way of being is not a flaw. And it's definitely not something that needs to be fixed. What it is a sign of silent strength. It's this quiet, powerful resilience that was forged in pressure and has been refined over a lifetime. And here's why. For a lot of people who operate this way, it's not even a conscious choice anymore. It's a deep-seated adaptation. Their very nervous system literally rewired itself early on to handle incredible amounts of stress and to find safety from within. So, if any of this sounds like you, if you are the person who always defaults to "I'm fine," then this is what you need to hear. You're not cold. You're not repressed. You are a deeply resilient individual who has mastered the art of finding safety inside yourself before you ever go looking for it in the outside world. And that leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? Our pasts shape us in ways we don't always give them credit for. So maybe, instead of just focusing on the wounds, it's worth asking, what hidden strengths, what silent resilience has your past built in you?